We can play this little game we play. You go hide and I will see.
The views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host, guests, and callers who are responsible for their content and do not reflect the opinions of N-Touch Radio or its staff.
Good morning.
Clint, he would put that song on. It's cool outside and Thanksgiving weekend, and they got that pretty lady talking about the freak moment and everything. Now,
Yeah.
I want to advise our listening audience that's a cleared song.
We're PG rated.
I didn't write it and all.
PG
But you know,
rated.
on a beautiful weekend like this, you got to think people done got full of food and all, and then they took all the weight scales out the bathroom so nobody had to watch their weight. It's heard a preacher of mine said his wife was part of the FBI, and before I realized what he was talking about, fine, beautiful, and intelligent.
There you go.
So the other thing is some people are F&T. What is that? After Thanksgiving, fine and thick. So hey, look, don't get it twisted.
Well, good morning out there. Well, welcome to In-Touch News Radio, Reality Radio, where everybody can be a star. Good morning. My name is Clint Paris. This is none other than the legendary, world infamous Sweet Pete
coming out
Edwards.
the FAMU Cookman weekend.
Listen, man, that was outstanding. We went down there. We've been trying to go for a number of years. We normally go, and my family has this massive, blowout and tailgate and all that kind of. It's just such a beautiful moment in our local culture to participate in. For all those whiners and complainers who don't ever go do anything, keep on whining and complaining. The rest of us gonna have a good time and embrace the activities, events that we have that are available to participate in. The Florida Classic is absolutely one of those.
Well, I know
events.
a lot of people, before we get in our main discussion today about these trials, I know a lot of people want the game to come back to Tampa. But here's the thing on that. When I look at the economic bonus for the black community in Orlando, that stadium is right there in the neighborhood.
Right.
And you look at those folks that have an opportunity to make parking, the small vendors, the whole bit. The hotels make money, but when you go around that scene and you see our folks making money, whether they got counterfeit goods or not, it doesn't matter. Everybody's got counterfeit
The
goods.
the shrimp that we bought were real. It was real shrimp.
Yeah. So,
And then we bought some conch. That wasn't counterfeit conch that we had. Fresh conch salad. They were making it right there in front of you. One of the things that's new is, check this out, Pete. I like the mobile beverage vendors. They got the bicycles and they got the cooler tied to the back.
And that's something,
and they're
man.
pedaling up and down. Just the creativeness of
And
it.
I just moved up to our producer. I want him to know I'm just moving up to having a boom box on my tricycle. So next year I had a food on that. But our subject today is that those jury trials.
Let me expand that to be the justice system.
Right.
Because the trials individually, I think what was on trial was our justice system. I think January 6th, what's on trial is our system.
Yeah.
And I thought the system, even if you go back in some of these other trials, we talk about Trayvon Martin, and we come forward, what's been on trial is the system. And let's talk about, if you think about the Kenosha, the Rittenhouse situation first. That situation is a result of people being agitated about the system.
Yeah, well, I told you that when I looked at reviewed the testimony of some of the state witnesses. Remember, I had said for 2 weeks that I thought they were going to find him not guilty. It's funny. You look at that trial, and then you look at the Arbery trial, and kind of like right outside of Savannah or whatever. Who would have thought, first of all, that you would have had a first-class prosecution like you did?
Yeah, you're talking about Georgia.
Well,
let's talk about Rittenhouse first.
Rittenhouse,
because I would say it was incredibly white.
Yeah.
Everything in that trial, if you think about it, it was very white. The defendant, white. The victims, white. Prosecutors, and the defense attorneys, white. The judge, white. The jury, white. It was interesting in that trial, Pete, I don't know if you caught this, was there just seemed to be this smoking cloud outside the room that this is about something related to how black people get treated, though.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, you know, I looked at that trial and I said, let me interpose it in different circuits in Florida.
Okay.
Okay, and different matchups as far as race and color. Let's say if the Rittenhouse trial was held in Pinellas County, that's Circuit
Sixth
okay?
Circuit.
There's no doubt in my mind, I doubt seriously they would have brought the charges that they brought in Rittenhouse.
I brought the charges.
Okay.
There was political.
Yeah,
the charges, Pete. Okay, so let's talk about Rittenhouse and let's talk about the charges. He was charged with 2 counts of aggravated murder, and then he was one with aggravated assault and attempted murder. I think those were the 2 charges. 2 people he killed at point blank range, who close in physical engagement with him. 1 person he shot, very close range, who had a gun, who testified he pointed the gun at him. So those were the charges. The charges were political, I thought. This was not about criminal. Those people almost burned the city down because they didn't trust the system. How could the prosecutor not charge in that case?
Well, I think you could look at it as a friend of mine said that from a philosophical standpoint, the prosecutors wanted to show that, hey, we would go after any and everybody. And they wanted to prove to the black community that, hey, we're not afraid to prosecute this guy. And then when you look at the misinformation, like he carried the gun across state lines, well, he didn't.
Right.
Okay? And then when you look at the law, if I had a 17-year-old and he was in Wisconsin, legally he can carry the same gun.
And that's another thing you have to realize is we don't think about that here, but in a lot of our more rural other places, it is pretty common for people to carry guns, have guns. Now, I don't think you need an AK-47. Now, that to me is, we may not need that, but.
Well, I think what I was thinking from a standpoint is that, hey, you know what? We need to teach our kids about guns from every legal standpoint we can, so that whether they're in Texas or Wisconsin or whatever, if the law allows it for a teenager, even if AK-47 or whatever he had, to walk down the street, then we need to train our kids, hey, you can walk down the street and be a responsible gun holder. And I think when you do that, what's going to happen is going to send a message to all of America that, hey, the African-American community is going to start taking advantage of these gun laws. We have to do that. And if we don't do that, then that civil war that I talked about coming will come sooner. But I think once we get in our heads, particularly young people, take advantage of the law. Take advantage of getting your carrying concealed firearm, all of that you're eligible for, even as young adults. Because sooner or later, Florida is going to be like Texas, an open carry state.
No,
they're going to.
I disagree.
It's coming.
Put that on the pile heap with your other prediction about the Civil War. That's not coming. We won't carry
and so with Rittenhouse, I looked at it. I said, okay, what is the defendant was black?
But Rittenhouse is why you won't get open carry. That's why you won't get it, because people don't want inexperienced people in crisis situations whipping out their gun, and you know what? I'm just going to start shooting.
Well, it's a little too late for that.
For that one, but in general, though, we have these situations. We had a couple shootings at malls. Imagine when the shooting starts, everybody else whips out their gun and starts shooting.
Well, they don't want black people.
I just think you won't be. And well, this trial, it was not a black person. Now, let me say this though about that trial, Rittenhouse again. It was very quick that they charged him. They very quickly, and that's what says to me that was a very political charge.
Absolutely.
That they had to do something to quiet people down. 2 people were dead, and something had to be done about it.
Well, the other thing about it, I give the judge credit. He was he has a history of being cranky. He had a history of not allowing the deceased or the wounded to be called victim. That was not nothing new for him. So
Yeah.
he's one of those old school guys that my courthouse, I run it.
Listen,
And
you
you
can,
know,
yeah,
so-
Pete and I'll talk all day if y'all let us. Let me give you the call-in number. It's 813-444-9588. Now, my
we're on
engineer,
Facebook,
yeah,
too,
and it's
yeah.
on the screen on Facebook. It's also on the screen on YouTube. But I think some people want to comment about these acronyms you threw out, Pete, about the thickalicious or fat, fine, and lush. What
Well,
was it?
that
What
was what those
what was it
were,
you said again, Pete? Was it
Well,
it was
FBI,
FBI,
and, FT.
FDF,
And so that's coming off a good weekend.
Well,
But
you
we
may have
needed
that.
this weekend. What a lot of things, because I tell people all the time, you can disrespect if you want to a jury's decision. That's on you.
disregard.
Disregard.
Yes.
But a lot of people that disregarded the decision had a lot of misinformation. And what I found
Absolutely.
out among some people I talked to are the same people who try to avoid jury duty at all costs. They're
Oh
not
boy,
working
they don't
and
want to
that
go
now.
sit down there.
But I've been,
Yeah.
as I told you, I wound up being a foreman of a case of a murder trial.
Who let you on a jury, Pete?
Well, it was interesting. The judge at the time was Judge Jack Griffin, and he was an old school judge. And in fact, the state attorney at the time is now a county judge. And then the public defender had been up 9 times for appointment. He never could get it. He was Tom Myers was the public defender, and Honorable Jack Gutman was the state attorney. And as we were going through the voir dire, whatever they call it, jury selection, I mean, you can be in a position where you know everybody in a way, and the judge said, "Hey, look, we kind of, this guy, he come to serve, and
And they let you stay?
they let me stay."
I threw you out there so quick,
And
man.
so,
You can't, no
no,
way.
but
I can't have people on my jury who have too much other intrinsic information about the system because people are going to defer to
Well,
that.
here's what happened with that. I was one of the quietest jurors because you can't discuss the case, on
Of course.
break and all. But as it found out, we had a guy that was on the jury who took an interest in trying to sell Phoenix weight loss cookies and promote himself, believe it or not, and some other stuff. And he just didn't fit, so that's how I fell into the foreman of the jury.
Now the
That's
judge
one
you
point.
met, was it Judge Gutman that you mentioned?
Well, Judge Gutman was an assistant state attorney at the time.
Okay.
But Judge Jack Griffin, I'm sure Dale Stewart remember him, was a straight-nosed nonsense guy. No, but it reminded me of the thing, too much is given, much is required. And
You're
so-
talking about the jury, people
so
appearing
they
in the
allowed
jury.
me, and we had a
Yeah.
good jury. I think it was only 2 African Americans on the jury. But when we went into the deliberations, one of the things I remind people, there's nothing against the law for you to take notes in a trial.
Absolutely. You take notes back
And-
with you,
right,
do them on
and
a
so a lot
computer,
of
all
people
kind of
don't
stuff
do
now.
that, so it-
well, now it's more standard. It's
Yeah,
very common now.
It was very interesting. And when we come back from the break, I tell you one of the things I thought about, what if that case had have been the defendant had have been black,
Had been
and
black.
the victim
Come on,
was
Pete.
white,
Had have been
or
black.
the victim was black and the defendant
There
was
might
white.
not have been a trial at all. Pete, if he
Well,
was black.
you know what? I know in certain jurisdictions in Florida, they never would have filed the charges.
Oh no, he would never got
And
the
then-
trial.
And the same thing with the Arbery case too. People think it was only Georgia,
Right.
but when we come from break, I'll tell you something. There are certain circuits in the state of Florida that probably would have never filed that case, even after the video of the shooting surfaced. So we're gonna go back to break, and I'm looking at this promoter with this bad ideas. Well, it's Saturday morning, so I'm gonna pronounce it however I want to.
Adidas.
Well, that's in a foreign language class.
Get the man his break, Pete.
But I like it. I like it.
Man,
I
take
like
his
that
break.
hoodie. So let's go to break as we celebrate Soul Saturday with In Touch and everything out at the beach today. And the weather's going to be nice, 64 degrees, so you can wear a mini skirt and long boots. What can I tell you?
Oh Lord.
Well, I mean, it's this frisky weather weekend.
Can the man go to his break, Pete? We'll be right back.
Oh,
after
he
this
just put
quick
up his
commercial
sign.
break.
All right, let's go to break. I'm sorry. Right. Hello, Facebook. Got on my
Hey
head.
man, Facebook like you. They want to know about these acronyms, Pete. You throw.
to Tampa Bay, I am back. It's Locks by B, bringing you a special gift right before the holiday. On December 11th and 12th, I will be hosting a 2-hour hands-on lock training at my Shade and Texture beauty store. If you're interested in learning how to start, maintain, and style locks, this training is for you. In addition, leave with a starter kit and digital curriculum. This year, invest in yourself and learn a new skill set, or sharpen your skills as a lock stylist. Be prepared to start offering lock services for today's demand for natural looks. To register and for more information, visit www.locksbyb.com. That's LOCSBYB.com. Hope to see you there.
Hey, this is Agent Wright, better known as Mr. Clean. You looking for some great barbecues? Come see them two brothers in the grill, located at 423 Virginia Street, Charleston, West Virginia. We got ribs, chicken, pulled pork, brisket, collard greens, mac and cheese, baby. Come get some and get you a nice, smooth cigar. 304-550-4431. That is 304-550-4431. Come get some, baby. The Rib Man, mama, the Rib Man. Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. You need medical or a lawyer? I got the man to do the legwork for you. We tried the other ones before, so believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida. Grab a pen or sundown. 184-361-RICK. That's 184-361-425. Never word from the point forward, just recline. Just ask Ricky, plus your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361-RICK. Call Ricky, ask Ricky. It's a legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
And Clint, you know, everybody looking at my shirt today. This is a
Covering their eyes.
well. This is the Head Start. As you know, I do a lot of pushing and work for volunteer work and encouraging our young mothers to get involved in Head Start. So every year, Head Start in the county here comes out with a new T-shirt or something.
Where can somebody get? Somebody can get that. Can they buy it?
This one is about 2 years old or something like that.
But you can. Is it open to the public for people to buy and?
Well, yeah.
Support in that regard.
What I urge the public to do is just get with the county and say, "Hey, look, we want to donate something to these Head Start programs." And you get one of these, and I get all kind of comments on it.
Right.
And I can match it up any kind of way. And look
Well, listen,
for
Pete. So technology working. So first of all, we're working, and we understand that there's a little bit of an issue with the call in because these people are lining up. I got a lot of people lined up trying to call in and get in on the action. But a couple of comments came in. And one of the questions that we got was this idea about jury of your peers. What is a jury? And I've always understood it to be a reasonable sample of the people in the community in which the defendant, not the victim, that the defendant comes from. Mm-hmm. That's the best. Now, the problem we have is our jury system is so archaic and outdated, it's tough to get that sample. Because initially we were not recognized as people, so you weren't even factored into how the system was designed. But you have issues of employment, family obligations, time commitment, education and understanding. There's so many factors that go into this idea. And now technology, if you saw the commonality in both those cases, Kenosha and Arbery, was video technology. And there was issue with video about whether or not the video was authentic or not and things like that. So somebody has to have an understanding now with technology as well of slowed down versus speeding up and things. But when you hear jury your peers, what does that mean to you, Pete?
One of my first times going to jury duty, I wasn't called. They were talking about jury of your peers. The victim was African American, and the defendant was African American. And as I looked through how they selected jury or what have you, it was a little different than if the victim was white. And the
Now, what do you
defendant-
mean different?
Well, what I mean is the selection.
And this is your personal experience being
Right.
in the jury pool.
And watch it, because I used to go down and look at trials when they select juries to see how they go through the what you all call voir dire or a review process of what type of jury you want. And what I found out was that in some cases wherein the defendant was white and the victim was black, they had about four, maybe five jurors that were African American, including a jury
on the
formed-
jury or in
on
the
the
pool?
jury, eventually wind up being
On
in the
the jury. Was it
with
get-
an African American as the jury.
Well,
foreman.
that's incredible because
Right.
you don't get that
You
many
very
African Americans in the pool
Right.
that's in the
So
sample.
and this was before they went to, they used to
Driver's
put
license.
Driver's license. So what was interesting, it took them about 2 hours to come back. They
the
went out
verdict.
for lunch, and the verdict was, I believe, was guilty. And the foreman at the time was a military guy, probably 50-something, whatever the case may be. So I started paying attention to all type of jury selections and whatever, and I found out that your jury of your peers, even if everything is of one race or one ethnicity, the defendant is black or white, whatever the case may be, people in that jury pool that's supposed to be your peers, it could be income level, it could be religious type level, whatever the case may be, because we assume that everybody's going to think the same way. But as I remind people that there are a lot of African Americans that served on juries that are conservative with regards to, they take a hard look at defendants who are accused of violent crimes.
Right, and there are a lot of people that just accept what police say and things of that nature. So, jury your peers is really a loose term, and the idea that anyone who walks into a courtroom will look across, if you're a defendant, and look across and see people that you consider your peers is, and particularly if you're African American, is
Well,
a
people
remote.
think educational level, they think religious level, all. But I encourage y'all listening, those of you who are young and retired or whatever, and you're bored and retired, go down and sit in a courtroom. And you can get a chance to look at and listen to the testimony and look at everybody, even with lawyers that come in with motions to dismiss, and you have the law enforcement or whatever. In some cases, you can tell just by the body language and everything else when an officer is hedging the truth. I discovered that just by observing.
Wait a minute. Let me
heard me.
But
You
you're
heard
an
me.
old OG though.
Yeah.
And the idea that you can tell when somebody's lying
Yeah,
versus
well, yeah,
not
because
lying.
what happens
and
is-
but that's one of personal. And that's why our system's so flawed with the idea that a person comes in and recants some information of that they had to remember, things of that nature.
Well, as a hidden secret, I'm sure the producer knows it too. A lot of plea bargain cases are settled because nobody wants to roll the dice on a question.
Well, 99% of all cases
like
resolve themselves for other reasons than whether someone's guilty or innocent. Now,
Yeah.
now going back to this Kenosha case, though, what gave you the insight to say you thought that Rittenhouse would not be convicted? Early on, you said that.
Early on, I said that because I looked, first of all, after they had gotten the jury, and then I looked at I listened to the presentations
This is during the trial, though.
during the trial. Listened to the
But
presentation.
you said that before the trial, though.
Right, because of the makeup, where it was being held, all the victims and whoever were involved,
That's the whiteness we talked
the
about.
whiteness of it. And then when you look at the history of the judge, who generally, believe it or not, although he was tough and all, he has a history of protecting victims' rights.
What was his? What did you think?
Defendant's
What
right.
did you think the age of Rittenhouse played in that trial?
From the judge standpoint, I don't think the age made a difference.
What about to the jury?
No, I think what turned the jury was probably, although jurors will lie and say they have not kept up with well-publicized cases. That's misleading.
No, don't say they lied.
Okay,
Don't
okay.
say they lied.
Well, they mislead.
I don't think.
They read and stuff. But what tipped me off that this was going to, before the first testimony, was the way they went through the jury selection. And the fact of the matter is the location of the trial.
I'll tell you the thing that
And
got
the
me.
fact of the matter of the judge.
One of the things that I thought his when I got more information about what did this kid do, the whole dynamics of this. He came the day before and actually helped clean up graffiti at a school. So that first I was, wow, he wasn't really coming looking to, just quiet down the street and open fire. And I looked at his relationship to the older people he was associated with. And he left his location because somebody called and said, bring me a fire extinguisher. And nobody else would leave. They wouldn't go out into that crowd. But he was too young and inexperienced in life to appreciate how dangerous it was for him to head back out with that gun hanging on him and try to go take this fire extinguisher. He had no perception how dangerous that was.
Well, no, and the other thing too,
because the adults wouldn't leave. They were like, "No, we're not going."
He was hoping to be what he might have been taught, that you try to make a positive difference in the community.
He
wanted to be accepted.
He wanted to be a hero. He wanted to now go back and he wanted to be a hero. The other thing that got me was, the only people he shot were people in the process of attacking him.
Right.
That was the other thing. And then the last thing that really dawned me how innocent he was is he immediately turned around and ran down to where the police were to give himself up. Say, hey, guys, that's not the mindset of someone who's engaged in thinking I'm doing a criminal act.
I'm sitting on that jury, and one of the victims that survived, I think he testified that he had the gun on Red House. He pointed
a gun at
All right. Once and I reviewed that on some other stations, his testimony. Once he said that, and in the candor that he said it, not from the defense cross-examining him, but he was a prosecution witness, then that told me right there, if I'm the jury, unless they found something more incriminating with that particular charge, not guilty. You can't. When a victim testifies that, hey, yeah, I had the gun over and all like that, that tells me that the alleged victim, went into knowingly a hostile situation, and maybe he was
I got one better than that.
Up.
The victims were creating the hostile situation.
Well, yeah.
They were part of the element, and some of the things that they said. So I thought,
what else they saying on there about that child? Because we're gonna get into Arbery in a minute.
Thankfully, we got D. Wilkins out there listening, and she said, since you want to highlight Soul Saturday, she wants to remind you that you need to be promoting Small Business Saturday, and in particular, Small Business Unity at 1924 East Comanche Avenue.
Yeah, Reverend Hudson. Yeah, we're gonna come through that. I got it. That church.
What's the name of the church?
Victory. I think
there you go. All right.
That church is in a good location. I worked with them when I was on the children's board on a couple of things, and Reverend Hudson, where they're located, they have an opportunity to actually see students at Irvin and whatever that come through there.
Which is a vocational school.
Right, which they're always having something. And one time I was fearing that the school system may want to buy them out because of the extension of Irvin, which they need some type of extension. But I got to give them, they started there, and they've been rolling. And one of my favorite mentors is Reverend Louis Jones, Coach Jones. Used to coach football at Blake. He's one of the associate ministers over there.
Well,
so
yeah,
I'm gonna stop by there. I don't know, brothers.
All right, D, you can hold him to that.
Yeah.
Pete said he's coming by for Small Business Unity.
Yeah, we
over
broke
1924 East Comanche Avenue. That's going to be going on today from 11 to 5 o'clock. Now we got to go to a break, and we're going to get to what the meat of the matter today is. The Arbery verdict up in Georgia.
Who would have thunk it? I had my doubts about that case. But when I
Welcome to the New South, Pete.
What? No, it's not. That's just what do you call it? Aberration.
Aberration. Oh, now
That
you
won't
walk
happen
in.
again. That
Normally
won't happen.
Normally I get to try to Professor Pete. You fell for it. We come back.
No,
We
that
gonna
won't
finish
happen.
up that.
In fact, if it had been in Florida, a couple of counties, like
stop
around Marion and Lake County,
Don't listen
where
to
the
Pete, y'all.
villages are, they would have found him not guilty.
30
I
years
could
ago.
give you 5 circuits in the state of Florida where if that case had been held, he would have been found
And I'll
not
give you
guilty.
5 ways we would have fixed that. We'll be right back.
all
In
right,
Touch
all
News
right.
Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be a star.
They'd have found him not guilty in Pinellas County.
Cancer affects everyone, but minority populations are often hit hardest. Moffitt Cancer Center is working to address the barriers that keep some groups from getting the care they need. African Americans develop cancer at a younger age, have more aggressive cancers, and experience worse outcomes than the general population.
While cancer treatment is evolving with precision medicine, who is being left behind? We know for many decades that some groups experience a greater burden of cancer than others. We can prevent it, we can detect it early. It's very beatable when we find it early. I've worked with cancer patients during their treatment. All cancer patients have courage.
So my treatment was about 18 months. I had 3 cancers and 7 surgeries. But my son told me, like, Mom, you're the strongest person that I know. Moffitt saved my life.
During COVID-19, Moffitt is a safe place for your cancer care. Call now to schedule an appointment.
You've been injured, you deserve help from an attorney that knows how to handle your injury claim. This is attorney Clinton Paris from the law office of Clinton Paris. For over a decade, I worked for insurance companies, and now I use that knowledge and experience to help people that have been injured. For a free consultation, call me, attorney Clinton Paris, at 813-413-7924. That's 813-413-7924, or at parislawoffice.com. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt. Offices, Riverview.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
All right, you're listening to Touch Radio as we're here on a post-Thanksgiving Day respite. The brothers are broke. We've given money to those who might have been our potential mate, and we have not heard or seen from them. Now, that's for all the guys out there that try to be good men that come out of their pockets and their heart only to be destroyed. I'm just saying.
Man, that's from that.
All right,
That's
let's
from
go.
the.
All right, let's go to this phone call. Okay, we got this person on the caller come in on straight up the middle. Are you there?
Can you hear?
I can barely hear you.
Hold on 1 second. Here we go.
Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes,
I can.
we can.
The lady with that.
Good morning.
That
Good morning.
fire.
Now, who is that? Robin? Is that you?
Robin.
All right, Robin. What's on your mind this morning?
I just want to make a comment in regards to your earlier conversation, the Rittenhouse case.
Yes.
You know, as both of you pointed out, the different issues with that case, right? But what I found interesting is, I think Pete said this, that they wanted to show that they can prosecute somebody. But what I think Pete said that.
Yes, that's why it was political.
But what they showed is how they can orchestrate the outcome of a case, because everything was orchestrated.
Now, give us more detail on that.
How often is it, I guess in regards to the judge stipulating or taking one charge off? Is that true?
Yeah, he did remove. I thought it was the gun charge because it didn't. The prosecutor had the obligation of putting in evidence at least the basic facts to substantiate the charge. And once it came out in the trial that he did not himself transport the gun, that charge kind of had to fall away. There was no basis for it.
But you're right, Robert. With that instance, I tell you what, if the defendant had been black with the same charge, looking at the makeup of the jury and that judge style, I assure you, even though it should have been thrown out at trial, I've known judges that would let something like that go to the appeal level because they don't want to be seen soft on crime.
Absolutely, that's the political part.
That's the political
part.
Now,
what other dynamic that caught your attention, though, Robin? And everybody knows Robin is stands in as a co-host sometime for us on our show, and we appreciate your support, Robin. What other thing that caught your attention that made you feel like this was political or manipulated?
Well, that was the primary, and I guess I received the wrong information. I was looking at the wrong information. That was the primary reason for me saying that. And to be honest, looking at the film, the different views of this kid shooting these different individuals, I thought that it was going to be hard for them to find find him guilty.
Yeah.
On that. I was surprised that they didn't include lesser charges. You can consider this. You can consider that.
Yes.
You know, I was surprised that wasn't set up to make him be accountable for something, even negligent. He wasn't even found negligent of anything.
Right. Now let me ask you.
Walked away scot-free.
Since we got you on the phone, and we're going to be talking about this in this part of the show, really of what happened up in Georgia. Let's go ahead and get your comments on the outcome of the Arbery trial as well. What were your thoughts about that verdict?
Oh, I thought that was a no-brainer verdict. I think that the outcome was great. I think that the guy who filmed it, I bet he's kicking himself in the butt, because had that film not been around, as everyone has said, they wouldn't have prosecuted that case. They wouldn't have had no proof.
Now,
it would have been their word against nobody's.
Now, in America, we have had to have a long history of the religious community coming to the aid of black people as we try to assert our rights and seek justice in America. What was your response or feelings about the defense attorney referencing the number of black pastors showing up at the trial and actually questioning how many black pastors does the Arbery family have? What were your thoughts about that when you heard those comments?
So, stuff like that is just a deflection, right? It's to put them, it's to make a person feel a certain way, right? If you have any type of bias, if you have, any of those things, I don't pay that stuff attention, because she was deflecting, right? Just trying to add fuel into a flame against those white men. So she was just deflecting. I didn't pay attention. She said it. Let's move forward.
I had two schools of thoughts on that. Number one, from a real hood brother standpoint.
Because you keep saying that, but you are not a hood brother.
I'm a project.
Robin, you still there?
Yes.
In what environment would people consider?
Explain.
I'm a project boy, okay? When I saw all those pastors there, the first thing that hit my mind was half of them were grandstanding. And I tell you why.
What do you mean by grandstanding?
They were showing up to show up and show out.
You don't think they actually provided?
Opinion.
Yeah, right. Hold on for a minute, though. Hold on for a minute. So, but two things can be true at the same time, right?
That's correct.
All right, I can dance in the end zone and score a touchdown too, right?
Well, here's why I'm saying that, because I'm looking at when a lot of times all the pastors show up or whatever the case may be. After the trials are over, you don't see them working to improve within our neighborhoods.
Yes, you do. That's not true, Pete. That's not true.
Before the trial,
that's not true. That's not true.
Well, see, I look at how do you improve my community.
I'm gonna tell you how. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna stop you right. This is gonna be a fight right now. I'm gonna tell you right now. Because you have Reverend Hudson right now over at Victory Church working the community. Right. That does not have any impact on somebody else showing up later to add to his work. The two go together.
But they can show up. But what I look at...
Go ahead, Robin. Go ahead. We need to hear from you anyway.
So, in regards to pastors, I hear this all the time. The pastors are the pastors. The people that attend that church, I was going to say constituents, the parishioners that attend that church, everybody has an obligation. But a lot of responsibility, I guess the responsibility is for the pastor to lead in doing things. But a pastor could be doing things in their own right and we not know it. They may not be in East Tampa. Everybody expects for things to be in East Tampa. They may be doing something to help the community in a different way.
They are, Robin. What you heard was Pete's Republican stripes and colors coming through in that comment.
It's the fruit.
That's what that was.
No. It's the fruits of their labor.
Listen, stop for a minute. Pete, hold on. Pete, look, I'm gonna tell you this. This is historical, Robin. And we want to thank you for your call, Robin. Appreciate you very much. But Pete, if pastors and religious clergy don't walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, you don't get the change you do. When it was just regular folks walking across there, they got their heads beat in. When the clergy showed up, the federal government had to put resources into that whole situation. This has been consistent, and it goes into something the collective effort of black people around this country to collectively fight injustice. So I love it when I see a national presence on a local issue.
Well, where's the consistency of improving?
It's over at Victory Church right now.
I know about that one, but I'm talking about when I look at some of these pastors that were present at the trial in Georgia. I researched about 2 or 3 of them, and I looked at what kind of track record they had within their own communities. It was very minimal or almost non-existent outside the church. And see, what I'm saying to our listening audience, if you going to be a pastor that shows up at the Arbery trial, and yet you neglect the simplest meetings about zoning changes and all that in your local community, you don't address sincerely or consistently about black-on-black crime, about our kids shooting each other, like over the scooter the other day or whatever. See, that's how I judge pastors. I know.
But you judge them all at once, though.
Well, here's the thing. One thing I find out, wherever there's a major issue about that impacts the black community for a TV moment, you see a lot of pastors. But the real work is done to try to improve our neighborhood and all like that is done without the cameras. And what I judge is that, okay, if I talk to young people 25 and under, and they can consistently point out that these pastors, whether they're good, whether they're from a big church or a little church, they can identify them. They may not agree with their style, but they can identify what they're trying to do in the neighborhood. That's my measurement. But that's my measurement.
But you know what? That is the most Republican thing I think you've ever said on this show, Pete.
But it's a good measurement.
Well, the first thing is this, because I get this all the time. People will call my office and say, hey, listen, you need to get involved in X. And I tell them normally, well, listen, I am involved in what I want to be involved in. Who are you to tell me what I should be involved
in? Right.
Right. Now, let's stand up for a minute. The second one is, you may not fully know all in what I do. And I think that there's a lot of groundswell. There's a national level of work. There's a local level. There's a regional. And I love it when on the national level, pressure and attention can be brought to a situation that otherwise could. For example, when Ben Crump shows up on a case, he brings with him CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, and all the cameras that could possibly follow. He also brings along the financial resources that a local group, a local attorney, may not have and cannot assert on the justice system. And suddenly now the system has to drive itself closer and closer to being legitimate to what it says it will do.
Well, when I look at that thing, one of the things I look at with pastors, I'm looking at all these groups of pastors, and okay, they're supporting the family, the whole bit. And then I say, why can't we have the same group of pastors consistently support the drive for more affordable housing? Don't see it.
Well, that's a misnomer. The word affordable housing in a capitalist system is a misnomer.
Still,
you just now reverted back to your socialist leanings, Pete. See that you just easy. You went back to the socialist.
I think our listening audience know what I'm talking about. I like consistency in our neighborhood. I think if you're going to be, you cannot be a pastor.
Yeah, you can.
And the doors are closed except on Sunday.
All right, let me finish. I'm going to finish on this note in defense of our pastors. A pastor's primary job is saving souls. And I just
But
trust that they will continue to do that. We're giving them more work. It's like giving our teachers work with our kids. Their primary job is teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. Everything else is bonus. We're going to take this
You
break,
can save
Pete.
souls, but the doors have to be open. You cannot preach a sermon saying our doors are always open. And then when...
Well, you just hammering them pastors.
Well, some of them. I know the good ones, and I know they do quietly work. But see, I'm very leery of everybody, pastors and other leaders, black political leaders or white ones too, that only show up when the camera shows up.
I disagree.
That's not where the work
We're going to be
is
right
done.
back and come back, and we'll try to figure out a way.
I'm looking for how we retain our kids to believe in ministers as they move up into the adult ranks and we move into our senior citizen rank. I'm just saying, that's my opinion.
We'll be right back after this quick
on
break.
Facebook. Oh, see my shirt? Yes, I got a blue matching whatever. And we'll see you tonight at the jazz thing on the beach. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Are you going to let this man go to break?
Oh, okay. Well, let's go to break. I get so fired up about what's going to happen.
Can we go to break? We'll be right back.
Yeah, we'll go right back. Right back.
Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Hi, this is Angela Birdsong with Tampa Bay Politics. And not only can you catch us on InTouchNews.com every Wednesday at 11 a.m., we now have a website at TampaBayPoliticsPodcast.com. We are on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Stitcher, which you can log in at any time and listen to Tampa Bay Politics.
Welcome back on our closing segment. We're going to get right into it. I just want to remind the guys that not playing golf today, leave your money at home for the kids and the missus, and I'll join you at the domino table. It's a little bit warmer inside.
All right, so we done got people fired up about this, talking about these trials here. We really hadn't even really unpacked Arbery, but we have on us the honorable former state representative Ed Narain wanting to give us a call in. Good morning, Ed. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning, Clinton Pete. I got to tell y'all, great show.
Well,
great show today.
Thank you.
Listen, I was just kind of hearing y'all going back and forth on the Rittenhouse case, and the problem is this: the verdict. While we can hate it, if to y'all's point earlier, if you're following the law and the laws of Wisconsin, he was allowed to carry that gun.
Mm-hmm.
But the bigger issue for most of us, common sense, is why is a 17-year-old out in the streets in the middle of a quote-unquote riot? And we know it wasn't a riot.
Where were his parents?
That's part of the problem.
The first question, where were his parents? That's my first.
Right.
Where were his parents?
Oh, that's an easy answer. Once you get 16 or 17, you're assumed to have enough sense.
No, because if he was,
just
that's
saying.
where the difference is. He was black. Somebody have a camera in front of his mom and dad. He's saying, "Where were y'all?"
Exactly.
And then why are y'all parenting this kid? But go ahead, Ed. I sorry for cutting in on that. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. Because I think that's the logic, that the lens that all of us are looking at this through. Why is a 17-year-old in that position? So let's say he's allowed to defend himself. The question is, what's the standard, right? And the standard is very low now. All it is I was in fear for my life. And black folks, when we hear that, we know who uses that the most against us. Unfortunately, it's law enforcement. So this person had a box of chocolates in their pocket, and the officer says, I was in fear of my life, and that's why I shot him. Well, Rittenhouse basically used that same standard for why he had to defend himself. But at the end of the day, what you said was right. One of the individuals had a gun. The minute that gun was shown, you can't argue that he could have been in fear of his life. He shot those people. They're dead, and he's free. Long term, he's now the face of the alt-right and the NRA. I mean, he's been posing with Donald Trump. All these people who he tries to say he doesn't align with are using him now as the face of their movement. And that's the problem.
Wow,
the rest of his life is going to suck.
Right. Now, well, we got you on the phone, though, and I did the same with Robin. And people will appreciate let me do this. I like your thoughts on the verdict in the Arbery case and the outcome. And can you comment on this black pastor influence situation?
So, on the Arbery case, it's funny. When my friends asked what I thought was going to happen, I told them those gentlemen were going to get convicted. Did I say gentlemen? Those murderers were going to be convicted.
Yes.
You have to look. I applaud the prosecution. First of all, let's understand why black people didn't feel there was going to be a conviction. There's a history there. We've seen it in this country time and time again. The facts are right in front of us, and the jury ignores the facts, and murderers walk free. This time, I didn't think it was going to happen because, like you said, the use of technology with the video, but more importantly, the prosecutor that finally decided to bring charges did something right. They hit them with felony murder charges. So you got away from whether or not their intent was to kill, but they did intend to hold him falsely, right? False imprisonment.
Right.
They did intend to assault him. All the other things you can hit him with, we're going to stick, and as a result, he's dead. So guess what? It's now a felony murder.
And you know
that's
what?
why they couldn't get out of it.
And you know what, Ed?
Listen, you must have gone to a really great law school, attorney in the reign, to have been able to analyze. What law school did you go to by chance?
I went to the Harvard of the South, Stetson University College.
Can I tell you something, Ed? Can I tell you something? There are at least 5 judicial circuits in the state of Florida. I'm confident that would not have charged them with the proper charge of felony murders. I submit to you that if it was in Circuit 6, Pinellas County, if it was in the circuit that covers Polk County, if it was in the circuit that covers Marion and Lake County with the villages and all, I doubt seriously the type of charges that were filed in Georgia would have been filed in those circuits, among others, in the state of Florida.
Okay,
It just wouldn't have happened.
let's hold that thought for a minute real quick, because they didn't charge him in that circuit either.
Well,
it wasn't until
right.
that state attorney got conflicted out that someone else came in charge. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me, the actual state attorney has now been indicted.
That's correct.
For failing to charge.
That's correct.
Now, that's what will happen in Lake County. And I believe this, Pete, in all 5 of those circuits, after the fires start burning and things settle down, because we would have went in there and set some fires, they would have still, somebody would have gotten charged.
I don't think so, because Florida, when you look at the judicial, the fast pace that is changing, I want to let our listeners know that we're trying to compete with the way they fail to prosecute in states like Alabama and Mississippi. And I'm telling you that at least 5 circuits in the state of Florida, one way or the other, they wouldn't have gotten, they might have been found guilty of a lesser one. But even in this case, I doubt seriously if one of those defendants is going to get life.
All right, Ed, let me get your closing comment real quick, Ed. Go ahead, Ed. What? Give me a final comment if you could.
Well, I'll just say this on that case. The original prosecutor failed to bring charges and now has been arrested and arraigned and arrested as a result of that. I believe if the Georgia Bureau of Investigations doesn't get involved, you don't see these men brought up for any charges whatsoever. And that's where, Pete, ultimately, you're right. We still have to deal with racism in this country. In this case, but for the internet, we don't know who Ahmaud Arbery is. And it's sad. We call this the Arbery trial. Well, he wasn't on trial, but the closing arguments of the defense attorney tried to make it seem like he was by referencing his big black toenails. At the end of the day, the paranoia that a lot of us have about the criminal justice system is completely justifiable because of situations like this. We're just happy that the right verdict was brought about.
And I tell you,
by the way, don't forget that the Governor Kemp, made it a point last year of removing. He pushed the legislature to get rid of the citizens arrest law because he knows next year he's going to be running up against Stacey Abrams. And if the right outcome didn't occur in this case, you better believe the citizens of Georgia, who are 95% registered to vote, we're going to kick him out in 22.
And Ed, as we wrap it up, I got one thing to say on this case also.
All right, thanks, Ed, for the call.
The reason why they said about the dirty toes and all that kind of stuff is because, no doubt in my mind, the defense attorneys knew the comfort level of the judges to allow them to make statements like that. For an example, informal friendships with the judge, whatever it may be, they wouldn't have made those public statements whether against the pastors and all like that, unless they felt comfortable that the judge was actually had some of the same feelings outside the courtroom. I'm just saying.
Well,
okay?
letting it go, but here's the beautiful part about this. And a predominantly white jury convicted those guys in the middle of Georgia. They left it in that community. They didn't take it outside and move it to Atlanta someplace. Their peers, McNeil or whatever their name are, McMichaels and White's peers, the people that they go to the grocery store with and the pharmacy and kids play baseball and grew up in that community, put them in jail for killing a black man. That's really the strong message of this entire case.
Well, the other part about it, you better make sure, to me, I don't see at the end of the day that the courts, through the original sentencing judge or on the appellate level, will allow a life sentence for all three of them.
It doesn't have to be. The life sentence is really in the 30 years. The 30 years gets you to parole.
That's what I was going to say.
So for the problem they're going to have, and for me, listen, if they get out of jail when they're 95 or something, hey, let it, But I think the what we needed to accomplish has been accomplished. We're getting the cut sign, Pete. We got just a couple of seconds. I want to say to everybody out there, support Small Business Saturday. Do all you can to support your small businesses. Look, eat that turkey, give it one more run, but start new tomorrow with the workout program. Throw that stuff out. Let's get back to eating healthy. And Pete,
we send our condolences out to Walter Smith III to the loss of his dad.
The family.
Yeah,
the family. Everybody in the family.
Let me tell you something. People don't realize if you go back and look at the history of the presidents at Florida A&M, Dr. Humphrey and Dr. Walter Smith, what they had to go through with the old Board of Regents and all. And I want to remind people that the School of Architect was started under Dr. Smith. Now, they got one at USF, but trust me, that School of Architect, you can go to USF, but you can tell them you want the
that school, they used to be combined.
I
used to was a 3-2 or something.
Right.
You did 2 years here, 3 years there.
We with you. It's hard to find university presidents like Dr. Walter Smith and Fred Humphrey and some of those guys. A lot of the new presidents, they don't have that open tenacity to fight as if they were in the civil rights movement. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Now, they're culturally and educationally sound, and people forget that his major in undergrad was biology and chemistry.
Wow.
Go figure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for listening. Appreciate it very much. Bezel, appreciate you getting up on this Thanksgiving weekend and coming in here, man, and saving the day.
I will see you with Daryl Lim. You know what? We didn't get our ribs yet, but I'm through with that. So as the music plays out, I'm not singing. Anna, if you're out there, I'm still here.
We miss you, Anna.
I'm still here, Anna. I don't know what area code yet, but just send me half of the digits or something so I can say, hey.
All right, have a good week. Take care.
All right, we'll see you. And don't worry about the diets. Don't worry about that. Bye-bye, everybody.